Hey guys, what's going on? On my last video, when I was doing the lower bushings on my car, I noticed the bushings on my shocks or my coilovers were torn up. So what today I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna try to swap it out with one of the OEM bushings off an OEM shock that I got, just as a temporary fix. All right, over here I've got my old stock struts right here. These are actually off of 3GS, but it's basically the same thing for the 2IS. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to press out this bushing right here and use it on my coilover. Hopefully they're the same diameter. I haven't really checked or measured. I just had these laying around. I figured I'll take these out first, and then we'll take the strut out of the car and then actually measure it here. What I ended up using was this 3/4 inch pipe right here that I got from Lowe's. I think I did my upper control arms previously with that. And then I had the other piece. Last time I did this, I had to hammer it out with a hammer because I didn't have a press like this. But this thing with the press should press out pretty easily. All right, so we got it all down. Go ahead and just put some pressure on it. Just constant, even pressure, make sure we don't damage it. So I made a little bit of a mistake putting it through that bottom barrel. I ended up deforming it. I should have used something a little bit bigger, but this thing is pretty much too small now for the diameter. All right, front shock removal is pretty simple. You got the 3 bolts up here, and undo those. I think those are 12 millimeters or 14s up here. And then down here, the easiest way to take it out is, what I find is to just take out this nut, pull the ball joint off, and then that gives you access, and you can swing this thing over and pull the shock out after you unbolt the 19 and the 17 at the bottom here, this nut down here. And then your ABS line or your brake line right here, this is the ABS line, just unbolt that and it pretty much comes out right after that once you unbolt this thing. That's the main thing that keeps the front shock in. The first time I did this, I did the bolts up here just because I couldn't get this thing out, but using a ball joint puller makes your life so much easier. So it's a 14, so we just go ahead and loosen these things off. Go ahead, just leave them loose up here while we're working at the bottom. Once we're ready at the bottom, then you just pull these off and take it out. All right, went ahead and took off all the bolts, so that thing's loose now. Took my ABS line off, took the ball joint off. That came off pretty easily. So what I have up here is I have an SBC camber kit. This is actually off a 1IS. And I got it custom fitted onto here. It's basically the same one. The only thing you have to do on the 2IS is trim that little edge right here on the lip. In front of this lip, you have to trim so you can slide it freely. I think you have to do it on the 1IS also, but on the 2IS, I've had this thing for maybe like 15 years. I got it not too long after I got the car, way back then, but I've always had this camber kit on here, so it's worked out pretty well. I've only had to change this boot once. It used to come with a red boot. Now I changed it to the black one because the red boot got tore up. It was only like $2 from SBC plus $5 shipping, so I ordered a set of them a couple years ago when that went out. So I just got to re-grease this thing, make sure there's a nice grease in there, nothing's dried out once I put it all back together. Once you loosen the bolts up top and you slide the bolt out from here, it's pretty easy. You can just take this out, just kind of slip it out, get it off to the side here. Could practically do it one hand, but I gotta set this thing down and pull it out, but pretty much, there you go, one-handed. Slip this thing out and we'll go here and take this thing apart and pull the ball joint off the bottom, or the little bushing here. So you can see that bushing was tore up. Look at that. Before we get too far, we want to measure, make sure I have the right diameters here. There's 33 millimeters there. So this thing's actually smaller than the OEM one. So the opening on the OEM one is about 39 millimeters. All right, I did a little bit of research and looks like I was able to locate some Prothane bushings. These are just lower control generic bushings. I measured the sizes to try to get the closest thing that's going to fit into that lower ball joint or that lower bushing for that coilover, and I found these two options, so I ordered both of them just to try them out from Amazon. So this is a Prothane 19908 BL for black, and this one is close. as far as the diameter goes, but it's not as wide as far as the length goes, and it doesn't come with a sensor pen. So this one I might end up returning. This might be the best option. This is a 2-piece energy suspension version of the bushing, and it came with a sleeve. That sleeve fits perfectly. It fits the bolt. I think I just need to shave the edge down a little bit just to fit in the hole. Either that or I need to widen the hole on the actual control arm to get it in, but this one's close. One other option is getting the old sleeve out of the bushing that's tore up now and then trying to squeeze that into here, but I don't think this is going to fit well just because the lip right here is just a little bit off right there as far as thickness. It's going to have a gap once it goes inside the hole. But we'll see once we take apart and push the other one out, see which one fits best. Ended up popping that baby out using that socket. Came out pretty cleanly after I switched to the correct size socket. So right now we've got this hole opened up. I tested these things over here and it looks like these red ones are going to be too loose in here, so they go inside, but they don't even sit inside there. And then when I put the both sides of them on there, so you want to put in there, so yeah, it's going to move inside there, so we might end up having to squeeze this baby in there or press it in there and then using this sleeve, or I could just press this old sleeve out right here and reuse that one. As far as the width goes, if I measure this guy right here, the sleeve, it's about 44.8 millimeters. And then you measure this guy right here, which is the one I took out. This one is about 42.3 millimeters. So it's about a little bit over 2.5 millimeters wider. So that's what's causing it to not fit in the hole on the actual car. And if we look at the OEM bushing that I pulled out earlier from the other shock, this one is 41. So this one's a little bit smaller than the aftermarket one inside the coilover, but you can tell the difference in the actual diameter. This thing was what, like 39, 40 millimeters there almost, the OEM one, and then the one I took out of the coilover was only 33 millimeters. So that's probably one of the reasons why this bushing also failed, because it's so damn thin compared to the OEM one, which is a couple millimeters bigger. We ended up getting that thing in there pretty nicely. What you need to do, the easiest way, is to press the actual bushing in first and then put that sleeve in afterwards, and it goes in perfectly. It centers itself and it kind of wedges itself in there. So now that we're good, we'll go ahead and put this thing all back together. Hey guys, thanks for tuning all the way to the end of this quick video on upgrading or replacing those bushings on those coilovers. As you can see, that coilover and that bushing at the bottom of their shock, or even your stock shocks or any shocks you have, is kind of the weak point because it holds all the way to the car. And there's usually not viable replacements for it because most manufacturers of those bushings, they don't make it for the actual shock. Luckily, we were able to kind of rig a bushing, a universal bushing, to be able to fit it in here and reuse the sleeve off the old broken one. You guys could probably try this on your own. The first thing you need to do is kind of go measure your bushing and then kind of look online on Energy Suspension or Prothane's website to see what their measurements are and just try a few out. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet to stay on top of all my videos on the IS250, the Sienna, or the IS300, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I upload a video. Remember guys, for all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.